Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contracts. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Hey, the vibes are slipping. I think it's time to bring out the Velveeta shells and cheese. The holidays are a time to go all in on indulgence. Headline your meals with the rich, creamy meltiness of Velveeta shells and cheese and satisfy your holiday cravings like no other. Bring that main course energy to your side dish. Celebrate extra with Velveeta these holidays.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
What's up, everybody? It's your favorite host, Court and Amy. It's ImmaLetYouFinish, show number 132 on the Pantheon.
It's 232. Why do you keep... Okay, show number 232 on the Courtney's trying to make us younger than we actually are. We old. It's show number... What's up, everybody? It's your favorite host, Court and Amy, on the Pantheon podcast. I'm going to let you finish show number 232. Go.
What she said.
Thank you. Good night. Remember to tip your waitress on the way out.
That part.
Ay, Dios mío. Well, we are going to have a really fun show today. We always have a really fun show, but we're going to have... former music biz executive turned memoirist in a great new book called You've Got Michael, Living Through History, out on Trouser Press Books. Dan Beck, he's going to be joining us in about 20 minutes or so to talk about the biz and about shepherding the Michael Jackson Greatest Hits record, his story, which I believe Dan says he named. He came up with that, which is a pretty good name. Anyway, so we're really looking forward to talking to him in a bit. But other than that, what's up?
I don't know.
Well, I'll say something fun. My friend Lynn, hi Lynn, who listens to the show, and her son Dougie, hi Dougie. She took me to a Yankee game Friday night, and unbelievably, they won. Usually when I go to games, they lose.
Right.
They won, and I have forgotten how much fun it is to go to a ball game.
Oh, they're so much fun in person. They're so much better in person than they are on television.
Yeah. And the bright and the lights, and it's like, and it was a beautiful night. The only thing is, Yankee organization, if you're listening, it's too goddamn loud in that stadium. You don't need music. It's non-stop music. You can't pick up the vibe, but they won. The Yankees won. So today it looks like they're going to clinch, right? Or
we'll see. Did you have Legends tickets? The last time I went, we had Legends tickets.
I know she has season tickets, but it was hoodie night, and we got hoodies.
Oh, I love when it's free shit. You know me. I like when it's free shit.
We got there early, and we were on the 18th. Yeah, it was fun. So we had a lot of fun. Because I was like, I haven't been paying attention to the Yankees. But anyway, well, you know who else has been having a really bad week that turned good week? Jimmy Kimmel. And he's coming to Brooklyn next week. You know, he does that show.
He does like a week of shows out of BAM. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's going to be honey.
I think, listen, we're starting to see a lot of overreach. Why aren't we like France, right? You see France. Those kids get in the fucking streets when they're like, we're pissed off at some shit that's happening. Here, I feel like there's a lot of rolling over the shit. But on this one, on Jimmy Kimmel, I think even people on the right were like, who are really conservative, are not into the banning of somebody's free speech. I think the kind of bullshit that we're seeing is a little crazy. And
it's a lot
good.
great. It's a
Yeah,
lot great.
it is. It's a lot. I mean, that was me, I guess, trying to be nice about it.
No,
it's a
in
lot
fact,
fucking crazy.
It's un-American, probably illegal, and like I feel like I'm in a parallel universe every single day. I'm in a parallel. I'm not. This
and I'm looking at our very useless Congress, Democrats, everybody's just useless. A useless crop of people.
Well, in the Democrats' defense, like, what are they going to do? They're minority.
They're doing nothing.
Really talking out.
No, you fight. You fight. They're doing nothing, and they're rolling over, and they're doing shit like I'm sorry. This is why they don't have young people. This is why Mondami is in the lead versus an established Democrat in New York City. Because young people are looking at them like, what have you fucking done?
Trump, I mean, Trump has lost a huge, the biggest drop in Trump support has been among young people. So that'll be interesting. That's the biggest drop.
Because they may have liked some of the stuff that was being said on the campaign trail, but now reality is setting in, and it's like, wait, where are the jobs for us? Where are all of the things?
Well,
fun fact, people, I just want to say this, and then we're not, because we talk a little politics, but that's not our bad.
You would say we're not political. We are political.
We are, but we're not. We're not a political show, right? That's not why people tune to us. They tune to us actually so that they can not think about all of the madness in certain ways and hear our takes on just bullshit. But the last time I checked, I just want to say, motherfucking inflation is not down. I know people want to try to say that there's no inflation anymore, but Miss Thing, the head chief, he's like, I conquered inflation. There's no inflation anymore. I just went shopping this week just to get, I shop every week to get my shit, because I bring my lunch to work. And I was like, oh, thank you. That was 2 kidneys and a rib. Thank you so much.
Well, just to bring it back around to Kimmel, he came back. It was about a week suspension. He was still not on the air in some stations, though Sinclair Network has now decided to bring him back.
And the other company as well.
Nexstar.
On Monday, he's coming back.
Yeah. So it was, you know what? His opening monologue coming back was pitch perfect. And let's see where it goes from there. But I think
what's great?
I think with that one, they bit off more than they could chew.
Well, because you know what's really crazy? Everybody was like, what he said, go back and listen to what he said that got him kicked off the air. It's like, I'm sorry. No.
Well, no. Yeah, that's a whole other.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, that's just.
And I love how everybody's getting kicked off the air for reciting back a person's own words, and then it's like
you can't do that.
It's like, well, it wasn't horrible when it was said the first time. Why is it horrible when I repeat it? But okay.
All right, let's talk about something that will give us all hope. Robyn is. They are saying that she's going to put out an album very soon. And I can't believe it's been 7 years.
We have one of the producers who worked on it said, I just finished the Robyn album and, she's got an album coming.
Fingers crossed.
But listen, she's been really active on social media lately. And I know a lot of it was around the 20th anniversary of her self-titled album, but it also felt like that energy when somebody's poking their head back up because they're coming, We
need it. We
do.
I mean, it's going to be a great record. Even without hearing it, we know it's going to be a great record. She's never made a bad record.
No,
she's never made a bad record.
Let me just say this, too. I had never seen Dua Lipa in concert. I'd never seen her. So I was like, I'm going to go to this Dua Lipa concert. So I bought a ticket, with cash. Because, I'm used to getting a free ticket. I didn't buy a resale. I waited for the day of the show, 3 hours before they released seats. I got a great seat by the stage. She was fucking incredible. She was such a good time at the Garden. You forget how many bops she has. She looked great. She's so sexy. The show was great. I fucking loved it. I haven't really, this is the first time I've really gone out and done something since the event. And I had it just
that? Sorry.
The event. Right. Yeah. So I just felt free. I could sing and I could danced and I twirled and I bought expensive cocktails. I had a good time. It was a good time.
Well, along with touring and getting great reviews, Dua Lipa, I mean, we've said this before. She is one of the most, at least for me, one of the sharpest, most culturally aware mainstream artists. There's a lot of people, underground artists, everything they say people think is genius, but she is, she runs a book club. She walks the walk. So she had parted company, the Daily Mail. So as soon as the Daily Mail reports it, you should really approach it with huge caution. But the Daily Mail said that she had parted company with either her accountant or her manager, somebody high.
Right.
Her dad manages her, but she had parted company with somebody high up in her organization because he had protested that the Irish band Kneecap was playing a festival. So she said, while she does object to Kneecap being banned, because Dua Lipa has been very outspoken about Palestine. She is a Muslim, but she's been outspoken. She's outspoken because she's on, I think, the right side of the story. But she said, so not only is that not the reason why he left, he hasn't worked with her in 4 years.
Right.
So other than that, Daily Mail, and she actually said, you know what? We have our differences. That's not why he's with me. And this was just a story put out to generate more conflict. And the story came out. We posted it because it looked very legit, of course. It was picked up by legitimate source. Yeah. And then she comes out and we went, oops, no. So good for her for A, setting the record straight, B, sticking to her guns, but also going, you know what? There's enough turmoil right now. We don't need to generate it where it need not be. So I don't even remember the guy's name. It's really not that important to me. I mean, no disrespect to him, but that is not the reason they parted company. Right. It just makes for a good story, but unfortunately that's not the story. So, and Kneecap, I just read they have one of the charges against one of the guys. I don't know, has been lifted in the UK. I still, I've only listened to one. I know there's a great documentary about him. Everyone's told me it's a really, really good documentary. For some reason, until I really read up about them, just looking at them, I thought they were like a political version of Spinal Tap. Don't get mad at me because they just looked. But
until the controversy, I'd never heard of them. I have to be honest. Until the controversy,
I'd heard of them. Also, it's a great name for a band. But for an Irish band, not for an American band, it wouldn't do anything. All right. So the Kennedy Center has been yet another thing that Cheeto Jesus has taken over. As we said our last show, ticket sales are plummeting. Nobody's coming. They want to do one as we're going to put the Christ back in Christmas because, that's been missing for years. It's basically going to be like everything on ice there, the 10 Commandments on ice. So many artists had canceled their performances. The man who was the head of the jazz program there quit. A lot of artists, but one artist who we both admit we don't know. Or Candace, by the way, says that every time you go, yeah, I don't know her. She's going to quote you every time. She said, I am now. Whenever somebody asks me something, I go, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean that shit when I say it.
No, but I honestly had never heard of this woman.
Yeah, I didn't know who she is.
That speaks more to my, lack of knowledge than her talent. Yasmin Williams. So she decided to play, but she was very open and wrote a letter to the world's worst gay man, Richard Grinnell, who clearly, when he went to gay school, failed every class in. Well, I guess to a point when you get that rich and evil and white, it's like anyway.
Well, your money starts to talk. You get to a certain point, and you're making decisions on your money. All the other shit goes out the window. What's best for your money?
Yeah. So she decided to play, but she had been openly critical of him and written it over. Anyway, long story short, she said that the Log Cabin Republicans, which is the gay Republican group, which to me, again, is like black people for the Klan. But again, what do I know? openly heckled her and were being abusive and put out ads saying, come here and heckle. And so this is what we're entering into. This is the fun time we're living in where people are afraid to do anything.
Do you know what's incredible? And because this is the truth, because, the devil is never satisfied. You people won. You won. You won. You have the White House. You control both parties into Congress who are giving you whatever you want. You have a Supreme Court that's not really a Supreme Court. They're a partisan court that's giving you whatever. You've won. You have the majority. You can do the things you want to do, and you're still angry. You're still upset. You fucking won. What is the issue?
We're not a political show. No, you know what the issue is. You know what the issue is. Come on, Courtney.
I know what the issue is.
Yeah.
Me waking up every day, me stepping out my house, I'm the issue. But it's incredible to watch people who have won still not be able to say, okay, we have what we want. No, you're still angry. So that's why I don't ever believe you when you say it's about this. It's not about any of those things. You're liars. You're never going to be satisfied because the devil is never satisfied. But we're not a political show.
We're not a political show. I'm just going to say this very briefly because there's conflict of interest on the show. Eric Adams is dropping out of the mayor race. Next. Okay.
He's technically okay. Now here's the thing.
He's still on the ballot,
and he is technically my boss. He is because he is the mayor of New York City, and I'm an employee of the city of New York.
The first cousin of an old boyfriend of mine who refuses to admit it.
This is all I'm going to say about his mayoralship of New York.
I'm having I'm not a hot flash. It's hot as hell, right?
He had a rat czar. But I've seen more rats than I've ever seen.
Quit. She just quit, by the way.
She should, because I've seen more rats than I've ever seen in this city. When I walk home from the Bronx to Harlem, and I never see rats on certain blocks. And all of a sudden now I'm like dodging rats the size of fucking chupacabras.
You know what Curtis Lee wants to do with the rat? And it's actually sounds crazy, but it's actually really a good idea, is unleash feral cats on them. And they did that in Chicago.
Right.
I mean, a feral cat.
That's not the worst idea I've heard.
No, ever. No, it's not. But anyway, he has dropped out. His name will still be on the ballot. And if you want to hear what we both think about it, we'll meet us somewhere on a corner and we'll talk about it. But I guess I sort of work for the city too, because I work for CUNY.
You do.
Yeah, but CUNY hates him. CUNY hates him. Anyway, he's not running anymore.
Well, my union did. I'm in the largest, one of the largest unions in the city, and we didn't endorse him. They didn't endorse him.
No,
in the primary, they didn't endorse him.
No. So I was just going to say a quick word about the Lilith film, and then we'll talk about Sylvia Rhone's legacy, because that'll lead perfectly into Dan, because he worked with her at Epic Records. I stumbled upon this Lilith Fair documentary, and it's on that platform that everybody canceled after Kimmel, which I did not, because I only paid 99 cents for it anyway, and I'm like, whatever. Sorry. But it's really interesting, and I will admit that when the Lilith Fair was around, the initial round of women artists, Lilith Fair, for those of you who don't know, was the first all-women's festival that wasn't that Sarah McLachlan organized, and it was 3-year touring, and it started out with a bunch of artists I don't care about, like Jewel and Paula Cole. I like Sarah McLachlan. Jewel gives me a headache. Paula Cole, I don't understand that whole bit. And then it started, they becoming way more inclusive. And Erykah Badu credits Lilith Fair for helping break her to a wife. It was Erykah Badu. It was Deborah Cox. It was Nena Cherry. One of the first performances she ever did in the United States was with Lilith Fair. It was Latifah. It was Missy. It was one of Missy's first tours with Lilith Fair. And then Sheryl Crow and all these are Indigo Girls, another group I don't care about. But it's just really because it was everybody, they made fun of it, and like lesbian palooza and all this like really misogynist, stupid crap. Meanwhile, it was one of the biggest grossing tours ever. And it was a mainly women, all women artists, mainly women support staff, crew. Anyway, it's a good documentary. I mean, just because it reminds you, it opens up with Olivia Rodrigo going, I had never heard of this festival. and that says all you need to know about how minimized it was. But now, back then, that back then radio would not play back-to-back women artists. Which is now we go, what are you talking about? Because it's been nothing but Christina Aguilera, one of her first gigs was Lilith Fair, major gig. So they wouldn't play back-to-back, women artists. And now that's like unheard of. Like, what? They wouldn't do. So it's a good, it's an interesting documentary if you're into pop music and sort of seeing, not that things are 100% better, but Sylvia Rhone has retired. I didn't know she was still at Epic. She's been at Epic forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk a little bit about it? I've dealt with her very briefly, but I know she was groundbreaking.
Listen,
artist, excuse me, executive.
You just think about her from East West to all the different labels she's been at, being the head, and when she left and went over, did she go to like Motown, I believe it was, or
she's been in a lot. I met her when she was at East. She was at East
West, yeah. And she was Ann's boss. And listen,
right, that's when I met her. Yeah.
As a Black woman in this industry, like I want to say she was one of the first to run a label and be a president of a label, be a CEO of a label, and all. I mean,
outside of
things.
Sylvia Robinson. But a major label.
Well, there was Giant. Cassandra Mills, I believe, ran Giant. Didn't she? She ran Giant. Right. But Sylvia, like that tenure is really long. You know what I mean? And it's like 40
years.
And
right?
you look about the people that she launched: the Missy Elliott's, the En Vogues, the Yo-Yos. Like this, the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on of artists that she nurtured and signed and really sort of blew up.
Now, I know she started in quote unquote Black music, but did she at some point go over to more, or was she always,
she always, like, if you really look and see, like, running Epic and being the head of Epic, that would be everything, right? But if you look at the artists who really had the direct impact, I want to say a lot of them it was mostly Black music.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I, and it's funny, for all of the, most people who are not in the industry don't know executives unless the executive decides to make themselves a star.
Right.
But she was very low key. I mean, you didn't see, obviously she went and did things, but she's not like, unless you're really inside baseball, you would not know who she is. I feel like she just did the work, But she retired. She wasn't pushed out. She retired. Is L.A. Reid's not still at Epic, is he?
No, he's got his. Doesn't he have a whole other situation like? And
he's being sued every 5 minutes.
Yeah,
isn't he? Yeah. So you can't.
So we're going to take a quick commercial break right here. We'll be right back.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just
speaking into the void?
But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
When your investors, customers, and workers demand more from your business, make it happen with SAP. The AI-powered capabilities of SAP can help you streamline costs, connect with new suppliers, and manage payroll, even when your business is being pulled in different directions. To deliver a quality product at a fair price, while paying your people what they're worth too, so your business can stay unfazed. Learn more at sap.com/uncertainty.
This podcast is supported by FX's English Teacher. Last year's critically acclaimed series returns to follow Evan, Gwen, and Marky as they vie for their students' divided attention. See why Cosmopolitan called its premiere season a masterclass of comedy, while Glamour raved it's the year's funniest and most heartwarming new comedy series. FX's English Teacher, all new Thursdays on FX. All episodes now streaming on Hulu.
back.
All right, so I do this every time we have an author on a show. I hold up a book that nobody can see except for me, but you've got mail. I get it. No, you've got Michael, Living Through History, a memoir by Dan Beck, which is about Dan's record company, an escapee from the music industry like us, and his work with Michael Jackson as, is it fair to say, was kind of building up to a comeback, because it sort of starts when the bad record comes out, and you sort of pick up around Dangerous, right? That's when you sort of pick up when you started working with him, right?
Yes.
Dan, where'd you go? Oh, it's like we see like strangeness. What's happening here?
The interesting thing about Dangerous is that's his album where he finally is like, okay, I don't want to be so tied to Quincy Jones being the magic and the reason why I'm successful. And he goes into a new musical direction. And I remember when Dangerous came out and it was more like modern, I would say. And I wouldn't say his other music wasn't modern, but he was definitely trying to keep up and do the thing that was hot at the moment. And I love that album.
With Teddy Riley. He was working with Teddy Riley at that point.
Kind of New Jack Swing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So the question that always, I really like this book a lot. It was fun from an inside baseball kind of mentality. And I thought that Michael Jackson is a very sensitive subject. I mean, it's, he's still somebody who, people have mixed feelings about, never about the music, but about, and that particular time of his career was when, and you're honest about it, he was getting particularly kind of weird, like the epaulets and the statues floating down the Thames and the kind of militaristic stuff. So I wanted to ask you first about, we'll take the music out of it. Was it difficult for you at times to kind of work with him in terms of knowing the controversies that were swirling around him at that point?
Well, first, when I began working with him, all the really big controversy hadn't occurred yet, but there were issues coming up, particularly in the tabloids. The skin color change, the plastic surgery, the stories about the Elephant Man and hyperbaric chambers, and when I became involved just prior to the Dangerous album coming out, my thoughts were that we needed to, not focus on all those things, move it back to the music and, get Michael to, not defend himself that way, not to get involved with the tabloids, and really concentrate on what had gotten him there. And that was, great videos and great music and, all of his performance skills. So it was really an effort to try to get back to that. And by the end of Dangerous, when I say the end of Dangerous, kind of the end of the campaign, which was, probably 16, 18 months later after the release, we really had made some great strides. Michael did the Super Bowl halftime, and Janet had done the thing, the award show event, honoring her brother. It was very sweet and very real. And he did Oprah and beatboxed on Oprah, which was like the first, virtually, most of America had never experienced. And so we were making great strides. And then that was coming into March of 1993. And then Michael went away to do the Dangerous International tour. And we didn't see him for, 6 months. And that August is when the controversy came out, on the molestation. And I thought it was over. I just thought, I'm never going to see him again. Here we made these strides and now it's just all gone. And of course, what ultimately happened was in January of '94, his insurance company caved and paid the ransom. And as I understand it, Michael was never happy with that. But then the issue became, as we started kind of re-ramping up to do the Greatest Hits album, was that now we have to overcome all these questions, and I was just heartbroken when that concession was made. It's like there, number one, you're just doing your job. You don't know what's really going on behind the scenes. It's as I had mentioned in the book, it's, every morning I went out and picked up the morning newspaper to see what was on the headlines, so I knew what my job was that day.
What you mean by confession? Are you talking about when he, because it was so interesting reading this book, kind of remembering, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that happened, because it was all, you mean the confession meaning that he, by paying, it's that one kid in LA at that point.
Was it that he had the kids, he slept in the bed with children? Was that the confession?
Not confession, concession.
Oh, concession.
Concession.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The concession was from the insurance company.
Okay.
And, at that time, I had thought it was his lawyers, but, I learned, actually years later that it was actually the insurance company that was mitigating the risk, so, they were trying to buy it off as cheaply as possible. And obviously, was not in the business of supporting Michael, so.
I mean, he was so big. I mean, obviously, Thriller, Off the Wall, but it almost seemed like both, being someone who was writing about music at that point, but also, had grown up with the Jackson 5, obviously, he was so big, but in so many ways was almost stepping on his own foot. I mean, I don't expect artists to be, I don't care if an artist is weird. I mean, I'm not living with them. They're not my dentist. I don't care if they're a little eccentric, but it almost like, it seemed like he wasn't aware of how weird he came off sometimes. Is that a fair?
Well, yeah, as Michael always said, well, everybody knows me, everybody knows, I wouldn't do that or whatever. And there was a blind spot for him, and, it's, if you go back and really look at those early days, he didn't grow up normally, We've all heard, the possibilities that he was abused, et cetera, and all that. But just the fact that, you're on the road in a group, traveling in vans and sleeping, in the van, and, just all of the, kind of abnormalities of road life, and and what his brothers were doing or whatever else was going on around him. It's I think it just was part of creating that kind of naive, blind spot, that he seemed to have, So, and of course, the whole idea of the book is really not to, to be judgmental or, we had no idea. But the fact is that there was so much more going on. There was, and it's so easy for people to just say kind of, well, it was this or it was that, and, and the fact was that there was all of this effort going on behind the scenes, and a lot of effort without any real knowledge of what was real, and so that I think that's the the reason I wrote the book, was that I saw so many interesting kind of individual stories of working with him
Right.
that both from the fact of, of him being naive, but also for him being as talented, as work related, and
I think you're
as
very fair. I mean, you do not come off like bad Michael, bad Michael, bad. I mean, you're open. I had forgotten about the whole the anti-Semitism stuff. There's a lot of stuff I had forgotten, but I do remember. And again, I grew up loving. I mean, we all grew up loving him, but I do remember I was working at VH1, I think then, and writing, and I do remember we were all thinking, "Oh my God, his audience is in former Soviet bloc countries now." Like it was almost like, like he's really big in the stands, because he was doing this kind of almost like, why are you dressing like you're about to go to war? There was something. And again, it was like the statue going down the Thames. Like, what the hell was that?
Well, that was probably the Sony European people doing that, But
yeah,
but the when when Michael would have an idea, you could sway him if you got there soon enough. But if you were a minute late, he would just get so excited about something that you couldn't change it, and
right.
So, I gave him the idea for the history concept, the capital HIS TORY, and it was from having a glimpse of the album in the studio. It was like, obviously as the double album, and one album was his history, musical history, and the other one was, I saw it as he was telling his story, his side of things, So anyway, I just thought history, his story, and so I put it on I just, sent it in an email to Sandy Gallen. We were trying to get Michael out of the studio, out of the comfort, the comfort of being in the studio for him was, compelling. It was like no one was judging anything. He was with people that he enjoyed collaborating with, and so getting him out of the studio and kind of facing the world again with the history album, with all of these things, all these negatives facing him, I think was very difficult, And when I pitched him on the history idea, my thought, in my imagination of what the cover would be, the white glove, the white socks, the Norwegian shoes on point, and
right.
Maybe a scrap of a lyric. I was thinking of it much more in kind of a items from very subtly from his past. And I think Michael's whole idea of history was, the whole, statues, wars, military,
it was very
it was just his like fifth grade memories of
it was
what
like
of
it was
what
the Battle
was.
of Algiers, I hate to say it, and I'm not comparing you at all, but now it's like very Trumpy, like military parades and big things and shiny, and it's like, can I just ask a quick question before sorry, what Stranger in Moscow, that's the history record,
one of
right?
his best songs.
Oh, absolutely.
I love that
Stranger in
song.
Moscow
One of his best
songs
ever.
And the video was Nick Brandt did the video.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great video. Everything.
Yes, we loved Nick. Nick was one of the few people, as far as later in his career, later in kind of after Dangerous, that didn't try to run up the budgets on Michael on music videos, right. And that was one of the things, when Scott Spanjic, who was my production guy, music video production guy, that we would, we were sourcing, 3 or 4 choices possibly for each video, and then submitting those to Michael and Sandy Gallen, and kind of trying to give them some direction of people that we thought would treat them fairly. And we would tell the production companies, look, if we end up putting you with Michael and you wind him up, to crank up your budget, we'll never submit you again. And it was it was the only leverage we had, because what would happen is, once these directors got with Michael, they would start saying, hey, why do we need 500 experts or extras? We should have 5,000. And Michael would get all excited and not realize.
Dancing elephants and point shoes.
Well, that's because, I was in video promotion at Columbia at the time. That was when, everybody was getting these huge, expensive videos. But like, you're a director, you get Michael Jackson, you can live out every wild fantasy that you want. You feel like it's Michael Jackson. We can ask for this. They're not going to say no. It's really good. I have a question about, why did Michael stop really touring the U.S.? He did. Dangerous was only a European tour. History was only a European tour. It's like he did not come back to the U.S.
You're right, and not since the Jacksons tour in the early mid '80s, and we hope for that. But I think what was happening for him, number one, 70% of his record sales were outside the U.S.
Yes.
So there was a huge demand for Michael outside the U.S. And so, I think, his promoters, his agents, his management, really saw that as an easy way to go, and of course, I think after the tabloid stuff really started escalating in the U.S., that then they were trying to avoid conflict, with the U.S. And, when we determined, one of our plans with the History album, which came out June 20th of 1995, was at that Thanksgiving break or just after it, we had planned the HBO special.
Yeah, which both Courtney and I had totally
which was live.
I read it. Right,
And Courtney, that is exactly, we thought putting him on that stage, and, that nobody had seen him in the U.S. for like 10 years, that would, other than the Motown 25 performance, that we thought this will help us re-explode his career, that people will realize what he was like on stage, because, for 10 years, nobody had seen him. And of course he got sick. And,
Do you think he really, I had, a guy that I was dating at the time who was what do they call it, a stage manager, and he was working that show, and he was like, I'm not accusing, I don't want to speak evil of the dead, but was he sick, or did it just become like he's overwhelmed by it all? I always wondered if it was like he was afraid,
because he legendarily said he didn't like touring. He legendarily.
But I'm talking about the HBO show.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, and Amy, I think it was a combination of things. I was over there. We were supposed to do a live, a dress rehearsal on the Friday night, and then the live performance on Saturday night. And of course,
Beacon, right? It was at the Beacon.
Yeah, at the Beacon. And the Friday night performance, would be taped. So we had something in case something happened. Whether it's a tech issue or whatever for the next night. And very much like Saturday Night Live does. They tape their dress rehearsal and then they go live. And if something,
They do? I never knew
Yes,
that.
they do.
they tape the
Mhm.
dress rehearsal in case something happens. They can
Another myth shattered. Oh my God, I can't believe anything.
well, the show always has been live, but they
Yeah.
always had that as backup,
Okay.
in case something happened. Even if something happened for 5 minutes, they could plug in 5 minutes and,
All right.
and so that was our plan with HBO. We'll do this. So the dress rehearsal was set for Friday night, and then the performance Saturday night. Well, the previous Friday night, like that day, that Thursday or Friday, I got wind that Michael was not feeling well. And I called Jim Morey, who was Sandy Gallen's partner. And Jim was really Sandy was, the real, LA image guy. And Jim was the nuts and bolts guy. And I called Jim, and Jim was in New York, and he was, shadowing the rehearsals and all that. I called Jim and I said, Jim, what's going on? And he said, well, tell you what, why don't we go over after work Friday? And this is the week before the actual performances, and sit down with Michael and see how he's doing. And we went over, and they're in the big Sony soundstage, and people are just, the crew was just kind of sitting around. There was nothing going on. No other, dancers or performers were around. And Michael was sitting at like a big round banquet table, no tablecloth on it or whatever. And he's eating this like brown broth, and he's got his head down, and Jim and I sit down with him and probably talk to him for 45 minutes and, and basically say, Michael, you can't starve yourself. You've got to, you got to really get some, some nutrition here, and and protect yourself. And if you take 2 days off and just relax and come back at. But I think he had concerns about how he was going to perform, and the only way I think that he knew, whether it was consciously or unconsciously, to get out of it was to be sick, and I think, in part that he may have made himself sicker. He was sick to begin with. And then, of course, then that week, that Wednesday, he collapsed and went into the hospital. And, and then the tabloids are all saying he's next to death and all this stuff. And, we had to cancel. I mean, we were all in tears. I mean, we thought.
What was the show with Whitney Houston, though?
That was the 30th anniversary, and he was at the Garden.
This is the 30th anniversary history. Yes.
Where she came out looking like death warmed over when everybody suddenly realized what bad shape she was in as well.
Who was that?
When Whitney came out and did starting something, and that's when she came out and she looked like Skeletor. And everybody was like, "Oh my God! Like what's?"
Well, that's the way. I mean, whether we're talking about Michael or Whitney or Tom Petty or Prince, when we look at what these artists go through stress-wise, physical stress, it's if you're a trumpet player, you have physical things that happen to you that hurt your performance, or even end your performance. And so, I think we need to, have a little more grace about all of these artists and what they go through. And, I presented market research to Michael that was, I had stomach aches presenting it to him but he wanted to know, he wanted to see it, and, he would go through, New York phone book size stacks of surveys that we did with people, and and the things that they said, and it was like, so he saw it all. And you know, however he digested it, that I don't know. But, you know, but I, you know, even when I was showing it to him, I said, you know, Michael, if you don't want to look at this stuff, you know, tell me, I'll take it away. And he said, no, you know, I need to read this, you know. And so, you know, so he saw a lot of really hurtful stuff, you know.
I think that, like, it's funny. I mean, obviously there was when when the allegations came out and stuff like that. I think that there was always a, oh, I'm never going to play Michael Jackson again. I don't think that. I think people still, whatever the allegations are, whether you believe him or not, I still think he's someone who still gets his invite to the cookout. Whereas R. Kelly, I think, not to compare the two in terms of severity of crime, but I think R. Kelly is like a different, because we didn't grow up with R. Kelly in the way we grew up with Michael Jackson. You know?
Right.
And with R. Kelly, it wasn't that much of a stretch to believe that he might have done this stuff.
Right. Exactly. I totally agree, Amy.
But I think Michael, for a lot of us, we grew up with him. Like, I can't remember a time in my life. One of my first concerts that I remember with my mom was the Jacksons. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like,
well, that victory tour was just unbelievable and
massive.
And really was a Michael tour, you know. I mean,
it was because he sang a bunch of the Thriller songs and stuff. He did his thing. That's the only time I'd ever seen him. I've seen him at award shows, and I worked at Sony, so I've seen him at different events. But the Victory Tour is the only time I ever saw Michael Jackson sing live. I've never seen a solo show because I didn't see the Bad Tour, and that was the last time he toured the U.S.
Yes, that's right.
I never. Can I also just switch a little bit because reading the book, ask you about V2 Records, because that was one of my favorite labels. And I knew Kate Hyman for a million years just from back in the day. And they actually, my friend Sandy Sawaka, who you probably know, used to hire me to. Yeah, she used to hire me to
Sandy.
And she would hire me to do bios. So that was I did
very cool.
Yeah, I did like India's bio and some of my favorite artists, Chocolate Genius and India and the Olu record and stuff. That was a great label. I just wondered if you could just talk a little, because that was really what. It was just like everything that came out on that label. It was like G Street. Everything that came out was like cool in its own kind of way, you know?
Yeah, we kind of had kind of a left field angle on it and everything. And I think, Amy, the biggest thing, you know, when I came in as president for North America, and that was end of January of '97, and they had actually started the label in Europe in March the year before, and by the time I got there, we had taken over the island's space. G Street was there.
It was a great space too.
Yeah. And we took over that, and we were still had the walls were, studs. We were still putting the walls together, and I counted up. We had 64 acts, and it was like I thought, there's no way we're going to break through. We can't support this. And we're going to have to really take some hard looks at this, or we're going to break no one. And the international people at V2 had this theory of breaking new artists globally. And I said, from my experience, particularly in the US, is you have to develop something regionally first, unless it's just a pure airplay record, and we were, we weren't exactly in the same league with Columbia and Epic and Warner's and all the labels that knew how to put records on the radio. We were a fledgling company, and so anyway, like when we started to work the Stereophonics, it was like the international company was telling us, we're going to put them in Belgium for a week, and we'll put them in, we're going to put them in Germany for 10 days, and by the way, we're going to give you 3 weeks. And I said, we can't even get started in 3 weeks, So
I actually did. I'm
literally,
sorry. Yeah, no, it's a great label. Yeah, I'm sorry.
literally, when Kate came to me with Moby's record, it was like when I heard that record, I said, Kate, this is perfect for licensing. And we had a publishing act that David Steele, who was our consultant on publishing, he had gotten some licenses on this. It was a dance act, and so he got some licenses, and we actually were making some money on this particular publishing deal. And I went and played the record for David and said, "Hey, how about you, along with your publishing duties, take on the licensing, efforts for the label, and work this just like it's the marketing plan, And so David agreed. He loved the record. And then Kate and I went back to Moby, and we sat down with Moby, and I said, look, if you have a hit single, MCA was trying to sign him, and they had a little better deal on the table than we did. And I said, if you have a hit single out of the box, sign with MCA. If you need somebody to work you for the next year, come to us, And the other trick to the whole deal is that he was only available for North America. So I knew our international people couldn't take him away from us and send him to other territories. And
I was going to say that I actually met I was actually in your Parisian office. I was doing a story on French hip hop for The Source, and Posse was like the guy that you were trying to break in the United States. And I'll bring it. We have to wrap soon, but I will say that when I went to France, I got taken out for the classic French. I was like a 4-hour French lunch, and it was Beaujolais season, and they were like, "This is when record companies spent money," and I was like, "Oh my God, I love being a writer in France." Anyway, we have to wrap, but I want to bring it back around the book. It is really, really an interesting book, and I do commend you for being both critical and also observant and not judgmental. I mean, you're very honest in this book, but there is no sense of like that Michael Jackson, he was awful, but he sure could dance. You know what I mean? It's a really open, honest book about him, and I think ultimately it shows how much you respected him, but he was not a walk in the park for sure, but it's or a very interesting park if it was a park, but it's called You've Got Michael, Living Through History by Dan Beck, and on our buddy Ira Robbins. I love Ira.
He's the best.
The best, former editor of mine, the best. And we just want to thank you so much for joining us today. It was really nice to talk with you.
Well, Amy and Courtney, please, just thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate your take on the book. I tried to walk it down the middle, and really inform more detail on what goes on behind the scenes. With a major artist like that. And. Well, the good, the bad,
Well, it is really good, and it's an examination of him as an artist as opposed to a tabloid thing. So thank you for that. So if you hold for a second, Courtney is going to do his award-winning outro. So don't log off yet. Don't log off yet.
You know what it is, kids. Thank you for following us on the Pantheon Media Network. We're there we're bi-weekly now. We'll go weekly again at some point, but right now, like bisexuals, we're bi-weekly, and we like it both. I don't know. That made no sense. But anyway, if you want more things that make no sense, Follow us on our Facebook page, and I'm gonna let you finish on one word. We're on TikTok for now because we're getting rid of that shit now that we see what's going on over there. Yeah, we got rid of the Twitter. Like, we're slowly going down the list. I
think we should just go break it down to we will write personal handwritten notes to people and go to their
index
house.
Cards or posters, like send us some postage stamps. Anyway, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye. We love you. Bye.
Bye.
This is Mark Shea from the Performance Anxiety Podcast on the Pantheon Podcast Network. We've teamed up with Teen Cancer America, the charity founded by Sir Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend of The Who, to bring you the most anticipated tribute album of the past 41 years. The Majesty of Rock is 35 of the best Spinal Tap cover songs you'll ever hear. You'll hear Spinal Tap songs done by Robyn Hitchcock, Alan Johannes, members of Tool, Foo Fighters, Caius, Failure, Soul Asylum, and so many more. And every dollar raised goes to help teens and young adults diagnosed with cancer. This is a limited edition of 5,000 downloads, so go to teencanceramerica.org, check out the store, buy the album, and give teens and young adults the help they need.